So we'll be ready to start if we can all take our seats. Thank you very much, and very happy that all of you could join us for this session. We thought that we'll do something a little different from normally what we do, because I'm sure that you're going through different sessions and just hearing long speeches. So as women from the communities discriminated on work and dissent, we thought we'll do something. So I'll start off with a little something, and then I'll hand it over to the great panelists that we have. I wish we had known that democracy will fail us. I wish we had known that people will fail us. I wish we had known that though my blood and sweat wash the streets of nations, there will be no dignity, no respect, because democracy works for some and not for all. You forced us to wash your toilets, but yet called us dirty. You asked us to clean your streets and called us untouchable. We, the discriminated and oppressed women, Roma, Dalit, Haratin, Kilambola, and Palenque women survived this. We are here to tell the world that we will not bow down. We will not be silent. We will rise. Rise like ashes from the dead and sing songs of resistance, hoping that the world will listen. Because there is no reason not to do so. We are here to stay like shining gems to tell our stories, because who better than us? Who better than us? Because we are here to rise like a phoenix, because we want to leave a world that is inclusive, equitable, intersectional, and just, because there is no alternative to a just democracy. We will keep rising till you see us flying high up in the air with wings of power and stories of our ancestors. The violence, the marginalizations will not hold us down. No more we refuse, reject. You defining us as your workers, slaves, laborers, and scavengers. Today we come to you with heads held high and swinging to the tunes of Dalit drums and dancing to Roma music, because we want to tell the world here at the World Social Summit that without us, you cannot win. That without us, you cannot run. And without us, you cannot fly. Because we are here to stay, and now we will force you to listen to us, dance with us, sing to our music, because we will create the world we want. Come, listen to my sisters today, speaking the tunes of resistance, and take it to the world, because you cannot win without us. We have a great panel today with us, and I'd like to introduce the panel. I'd like to call on stage Neres Isabel Reyes, who is from the Palenque community in Colombia, and a young leader from Colombia. So Neres, if you can come. We have with us Pranjali Kuril, who's a young Dalit woman leader from India, and who's representing the Inclusivity Project. We have Queen Besing, who is from the Global Forum of Communities Discriminated on Work and Dissent, and is from Cameroon. And we have Gabriela Rabanova, who is from the European Roma Grassroots Organization Network from Czechia, Belgium. And I will also take my seat. Thank you so much. A big round of applause. And Simona Toratskoy, who is, you will not be, okay. Hello. Is this working? Yeah. So my first question would be to Pranjali. Pranjali, you're from India and from the South Asian context, with caste, gender, and labor, often shapes the art that you make. And often who gets to called an artist is depending on the caste that you come from. As a result, in many ways, Dalit women's work and art remain invisibilized. What are the pathways towards challenging this invisibility and reimagining our work as a site for knowledge, empowerment, and resistance?
Uh, Thank you so much for this question, Abina. Very pertinently put. So I want to begin answering this by saying that when we think of art, what do we get in mind? We think of self-expression, we think of beauty, we think of aesthetics, we think of colors. But something that I want to sort of highlight through this address today is when we look at caste society, such as South Asian society and also caste societies, and similarly similar societies with such structural hierarchies across the globe, where art intersects with work, with dissent, we might want to reiterate what we think of art. Does it remain a rosy picture then also? Starting on that, I want to explore that through a story from my community, from my family. So the community that I come from is Dalit community, and the particular caste community was historically engaged with leather work. So my great-grandfather used to do the leather work, skin the cow. It used to create a foul smell. They would create shoes out of it. And if we look at shoemaking, it's design, it's art, it's aesthetics. But for my community, in that historical trajectory, it was a caste occupation. It was something that made them untouchables, too impure to even be touched or even be looked at. So when I see that act of making shoes, like, does it remain just art for me? It's not so single-dimensional in that case. From this, I also want to bring in the object, the artifact that I have got with myself. So 2 generations ago, after my great-grandfather, my family stopped doing this work. They call it ganda kaam, which is dirty work, and that's their way of assertion that we don't want to do it. We want to do something else that will give us more dignity. So they moved to different occupations, be it like subsistence level farming or contractual labor, still oppressive, but away from the caste work. And so they found these alternate ways, and this art that I have with myself, it's a handheld fan. There are 2 of these, and these have been made by people in my family, in my village. I recently visited the village that I come from in UP. It's a very small village where my family had migrated from, but a lot of my distant family is still there. So this is made by my cousins, and it's all handmade. It's all sustainable. This is recycled plastic bag, the sacks, and these are cloth waste. This is wood. But for the girls and women in my community who make these, they are not recognized as artists, and they don't have the avenues and opportunities to sort of access funding or access opportunities to grow their business or take it outside of the village. So that is something that I want to highlight today. And this piece of art is also a bit like quite layered. It carries this history of brutality, but then it also carries desire for better lives. It is a necessity in heat because there are no alternate options for cooling, especially in global warming, where my people are relatively contributing nothing to, but they don't have anything to keep themselves cool apart from a handheld fan. And it also represents lack of education and employment opportunities, but it is also an expression of beauty and their selves. So this is all handmade and sustainable, as I said, but then we have lack of opportunities. So my first recommendation that I want to give through this story is that it's very important to promote youth-led initiatives, because we clearly do not lack talent and we clearly do not lack capacity to do art. What we lack is systems and structures that would promote for these young people to have their art be seen in the mainstream. So that is something that, first thing that I want to recommend. And from there, I want to go to the second part of this address and want to say that we need to acknowledge that in a caste society, patriarchy and caste, they don't just coexist. In a caste society, the nature of patriarchy itself is caste. Just to theoretically sort of explain that a bit, so in a caste society, the dominant caste men, they control the sexuality of women so that the bloodlines remain pure, so that the castes remain intact. And that's why there is a public and private divide, where dominant caste women, they are stopped from going into the public spaces because we have to maintain caste system, and we have been like fighting that for so long. But another reality is also that this public-private divide does not apply exactly like that for Dalit women, because Dalit women have always been in the public space. They have always been farmers, laborers, workers, because they couldn't afford not to be in the public space. So the point that I want to raise by saying all of this is that it's different. That Dalit women have unique challenges. A lot of caste communities, some of these communities from Dalit background, they are also performer castes, which means that historically they have performed in the public space, dances, dances, singing for the male gaze, and their bodies have been there in the public space to be sexualized. So when the challenges of Dalit women are unique, when patriarchy is not similar for everybody, why should the policies be? So the recommendation from there that I want to give is that for something meaningful to happen, Dalit women need to have like targeted policies towards them, and they need to be consulted because they have ideas, they know their issues the best, and they have the capacity to also engage in policy discussions and be a part of the table. And I just don't want to end my address without mentioning that this is not all that there is. Dalit women have always been creating art. They have always been challenging patriarchy, challenging caste. There is a lot of research done by Dr. Kalyani, who talks about how women in rural communities in Uttar Pradesh, India, they have been singing these songs of assertion, of resistance. And my last recommendation through that is that government, global agencies, they need to fund, they need to support preservation of these forms of art, because we can't afford to let them get lost in the history again, like our voices have been throughout the history. So I just want to end by a very short poem that I have written, and the title of this poem is Missing, and it's a personal poem, so here it goes. So my grandfather left the village and migrated to the city, to a city that was cold to him, but gave his work more dignity. Sooner than later, brothers, nephews, children followed footsteps, gradually building warmth in the harsh winters of Delhi. My grandfather left the village and migrated to the city. 2 generations later, this act, now my liberation, takes me to a renowned university. And I tell my friends with passion this story of my family, my people, my community, without realizing what's missing from this piece of history. My grandmother's hands. My grandmother's hands that got to pick up pencils and books, not for herself, but only for her children. My grandmother's hands that have the name of her husband tattooed on them since she was 8, the age she got married. My grandmother's hands, living hand to mouth, making countless rotis, that is chapatis, for the brothers, nephews, children, hands that have known work and only work for as far back as she would remember. Work on the fields, work inside the house, work that never even gets called work. And I should have started by saying that it was not only my grandfather, but also my grandmother who left the village and migrated to the city, if only it wasn't so easy to forget the labor of hands that fed me. Thank you. Oh, also, just to mention, this is made by my cousin. Her name is Priya Kuril. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
I think that deserves a much louder applause. Come on. Thank you. That was really emotional. That sometimes, you know, when people are invisibilized, their art, their labor is also invisibilized. Here's a very powerful story how women from the community are so talented and so much of labor is put, but yet they're invisibilized. Thanks so much, Pranjali, for bringing in that really emotional touch to the work that you did and excellently presented. Thank you so much. Gabriela, I think you are next, but I can go to the next speaker. Okay. So, Gabriela, the question to you is, achieving structural change requires reforming institutions and justice systems to be gender responsive and inclusive. Can you share a replicable community-led model or grassroots initiative your organization or members has implemented that successfully challenged an exclusionary institutional practice or redistributed access to a key service like healthcare or education for Roma women.
Thank you so much, Veena, and yes, I need this also. Thank you so much, Veena. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me. I'm coming on behalf of the European Roma Grassroots Network, which is a coalition of community-led groups working at the European level, bringing the Roma voices to the European institutions. And here I'm also represent, and Ergo is also one of the founding members of the GFOT, which we are very proud to be. And before I begin, I also want to share a little bit about the artifact, because I know everybody is having it. So what I brought here, it's also, I'm sorry? It's coming from, it means a lot for our culture. So this is called Romani diklo, and it's a traditional scarf that is worn by Romani women, and it's a simple piece of cloth, but it's being worn for a generation, and it's coming from the history. It's bringing the dignity, but also the strength of our people, and especially for our mothers and grandmothers. And it symbolized modesty, identity, but also the quiet resistance, because it's saying we are still here. And today, younger women, and myself also included, we wear it with pride. And we want to bring the voice, not only to the kind of agendas that we're working on, but also with, we want to be heard, we want to be seen, and also we want to lead. And with the spirit of visibility, dignity, and collective resilience, I want to address you today. So when we talk about structural changes, we often focus on institutions, of legislation. But transformation truly begins when the lived experience of women, those who are most affected, they redefine how the system works. And I just want to start with a few facts, because that's around 80% of Roma in Europe live below the threshold of poverty, comparing to 17% of majority of population. Sometimes we would not think that actually something like this is possible in Europe, but it is. And Roma children are twice likely live to poverty than their non-Roma peers, and every third person goes to sleep, every third Roma child goes to sleep hungry. And these are not just the numbers, because these are representing people which are denied equal access to the healthcare, education, and justice. And for Roma women across Europe, discrimination, it's not an abstract issue. It is the school principal who assumes that Roma girl would not finish high school. It is the doctor who refuses to register Roma woman in the local clinic because she doesn't have the right documents. And these are not isolated facts, these are systemic exclusions, but they are also built in the institutions and by the institutions themselves. So in Ergo, we believe that challenging this kind of exclusion requires not only advocacy, but when it comes to the Roma women, it has to be led by women through the community-based structures that we can hold those institutions accountable. And this is why community-led solution is not only optional, but they are essential. So those examples you asked me to share, so there is in Romania, for example, we have a organization, SASTIPEN, Center for Health Policies, which is a network created by Roma health mediators, mostly women, and they are bridging the communities and the public health system. And through their work, we have thousands of Roma women and children who were registered with family doctors for the first time. We have preventive care and vaccination programs reached to the settlements and that have been for a long time ignored. Local doctors receive anti-discrimination training so that they can rebuild the trust. And this model was later institutionalized also nationally. And it's proving that Roma women can lead also institutional reform. And this is now being replicated also in Bulgaria and beyond. In Czech Republic, we also have this program. So this community innovation became a public policy. In Czech Republic, this is not so much replicable program, but it is very important program because there is an organization, Vzájemné soužití, Living Together, also our member, who work over the decade with women who were forcibly sterilized and without their consent. And this is one of the darkest chapter of the institutional violence in Europe. And they are documenting their stories, they are supporting women to speak publicly, but they also built a case that led to the state compensation and official apology. And for us, this is not just the justice for individuals, because it also helped to change the hospital protocols and inform consent on women's rights and reproductive health care. And this is what structural change can go through. So when we have this lived experience, we can also kind of through the acknowledging the truth, we can achieve the reconciliation moment, and we can practically, that's what we need, right? To take this transitional justice to have in place. And maybe just one more example from Sweden, Trajoskorodrom, which is the road of life, where we have mentoring Roma girls and women to continue education. They are building confidence and access leadership communities, something that we know across all our communities that we do. But it's so important because they work hand in hand with schools, municipalities, and they are turning barriers into the bridges. And the girls who felt invisible are now completing secondary schools, entering universities, and mentoring the younger ones. So this sort of intergenerational empowerment, I think that we can really share across all the communities that we are part of. So when we come to the lessons, I think that these examples are really showing that where Roma women lead, or women lead in general, the exclusion can turn into participation. But there are still some principles that we have to have in mind, and it will be the community ownership, institutional partnership, and also gender leadership. So, yeah, so in today Europe, 4 of 5 Roma still live in poverty. And the work of these women, it's not marginalized, it is revolutionary. And they are providing that structural inequality can be dismantled. One clinic, one classroom, one municipality at a time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's fantastic. That's a beautiful scarf, by the way. And it really shows how women from the excluded communities can change or can move from pain to power when they're in leadership. Thank you so much. I'd now like to call upon Neris. Neris will be speaking in Spanish, so you can use channel number 1 to listen in English for those of you who'd like to hear it in English. So, Neris, the lack of available disaggregated data focusing on the specific needs of Palanquera is a major challenge, often leading to the exclusion from policy documents. How does the specific data vacuum impact your ability to advocate for necessary resources such as access to social benefits, land, or employment opportunities for the women in your communities? Sorry? Or do I have to use the headset for her to hear? Yeah, I have already announced that. Yeah. You can go ahead.
Bueno, yo vengo de Colombia, de la comunidad palenquera, y es una comunidad pequeña y la mayoría de la información que hay está conjugada con la información de las comunidades negras y afrocolombianas y raizales. En la mayoría de los casos no hay una información específica sobre nuestra comunidad. sino de manera general. Pero en el territorio somos aproximadamente 5.000 habitantes y de la diáspora palenquera en todo el país aproximadamente podemos sumar 10.000 habitantes. La situación de las mujeres, en particular, hablaré sobre eso, es una situación de discriminación y racismo debido a las situaciones históricamente de exclusión que ha vivido la comunidad palenquera. Las mujeres palenqueras tradicionales venden en las calles dulces y en las playas venden frutas, algunas hacen masajes, pero también ejercemos diferentes roles, afortunadamente. Y en mi caso, conmigo, también muchas que somos profesionales, afortunadamente. Sin embargo, hay unas generaciones de muchachas jóvenes que es muy lamentable que se dediquen a la venta ambulante de dulces y cocadas porque no consiguen empleo aun cuando son profesionales, aun cuando pueden ejercer otras actividades diferentes. Porque primero en la comunidad de Palenque no hay oportunidades para todos. Es una comunidad que ha sido abandonada por el Estado, que aunque somos patrimonio oral e inmaterial de la humanidad, desde 2005, y a partir de eso, una de las estrategias económicas que utilizamos es el turismo como forma de subsistencia. No todas las personas se dedican al turismo. Muchas tienen que salir a vender aún en la calle exponiéndose a violencia y abuso, incluso policial. Porque en algunos espacios públicos es complicado que las mujeres vendan. Las mujeres palenqueras fuimos reconocidas como patrimonio oral e inmaterial en la ciudad de Cartagena, pero este título solamente es utilizado con fines de explotación comercial. Nuestros cuerpos son racializados y explotados, pero no hay una retribución económica frente a la actividad económica que le genera a la ciudad de Cartagena la exposición de estas mujeres. Solamente lo que el turista les da por tomarse la foto o por que ella ocupe en ciertos espacios y por la venta de sus productos. Hay una cosificación sobre los cuerpos de las mujeres, de lo cual no estamos de acuerdo. Sentimos que es muy triste por todo lo que significa para nosotros ser una mujer palenquera que se atrevió unos años antes a ponerse la punchera en la cabeza y a sacar a sus familias adelante. Una mujer que a la par del hombre tuvo que trabajar y vender los productos que los hombres cosechaban en el campo. Lo que nosotros denominamos un tipo de feminismo palenquero y que nos honra afortunadamente todo lo que significa que nuestras madres, nuestras abuelas y nuestras ancestras hayan hecho por nosotras para que hoy podamos tener una profesión, para que podamos tener una vida diferente. Sin embargo, no es suficiente, por cuanto hay muchas mujeres palenqueras, incluso adolescentes, que aún venden en las calles y aún hacen incluso masajes en las playas, venden dulces y frutas y se exponen a ser explotadas de manera comercial. Las mujeres palenqueras tradicionales requieren proyectos que le permitan desarrollar habilidades sociales para el manejo de sus productos, para poder tener estrategias que le permitan también resolver conflictos entre ellas, porque ahora también algunas mujeres de comunidades negras y afrodescendientes también se están dedicando hace unos 30 años, 20 años hacia acá, que hubo el reconocimiento de la mujer palenquera, se están dedicando también a las ventas en la parte histórica de la ciudad de Cartagena. Y esto ha representado para ellas una competencia y no se han tomado las medidas suficientes para capacitarlas y que puedan aprender a tener relaciones interpersonales adecuadas. Adicionalmente, la mayoría no tienen manejo de finanzas o cómo aprender a comercializar los productos, no reciben financiación para la comercialización de los mismos. Entonces se requiere apoyo e inversión económica para la actividad tradicional que desarrollan. Y también una política de enfoque diferencial a nivel de Colombia que realmente pueda contribuir a la atención en salud, en educación y en empleabilidad para las mujeres palenqueras de nuestro territorio. Las mujeres palenqueras representamos no solamente una punchera en la cabeza que significa resistencia, sino que significamos historia, significamos el poder y podemos aportar muchísimo a Colombia, pero también estamos dispuestas a seguir aportando al mundo desde diferentes áreas. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Neris. Neris, also, were you to also recite a poem?
No, ahí no entendí. Repite, repite.
All right.
You have to repeat it.
Repite.
Oh, were you also to recite a poem?
El poema.
Ah.
Bueno, soy también, soy de formación psicóloga, especialista en psicología forense, pero además soy poeta. Y les voy a declamar un poema que hay un ruido, un poema que parte también del proceso de racismo y exclusión que vivimos, y a partir de eso lo escribí y se llama Que me traten como igual. Que me traten como igual que al resto de las mujeres que hayan nacido en castillo o en casa de paja o tabla. ¿Acaso no soy mujer que hasta golpes ya me ofrecen y me miran como menos, pero en su cama me quieren? Que me traten igual. ¿Y acaso no es mi derecho que una que nació en castillos, con corona y con vasallos, que me traten igual? ¿Y acaso estoy reclamando lo que me quitan con creces y lo que yo he construido? Gracias.
A round of applause. Come on, you can be louder than that. Thank you. Over to Queen Bissing, who is from Cameroon. The question to you, Queen, is that this event centers around CDWD women as leaders, contributors, promoting creative and community-driven strategies. In your experience, how was amplifying the leadership and self-expression of CDWD women organizing been the most effective way to address systemic exclusion and move away from a charity-based framing of our challenges? Resilience, specifically focusing on resilience, please.
Thank you, Bina. I think I will answer your question by illustrating the mortar and the pestle. In Africa, long before the sun rises and even the cock crows, you hear the sound of the pestle hitting so hard in the mortar. That's the sound that awakes the community, especially communities discriminated on work and descent, the most marginalized, discriminated, and those living in poverty. The mortar and the pestle, a symbol of dignity and a living memory for communities discriminated on work and descent. Most of these communities live in dorms, in slums areas, lacking electricity and mechanical mills. The mortar and the pestles then remains essential to the subsistence of the economy as they use it as a grinding machine because they have no electricity. It brings women together, often the poorest, around collective and silent labor. This work, invisible to the public policy, nevertheless embodies the backbone of food security for these communities. Under slavery and its contemporary forms, these same women pound grains to feed the master's families even before feeding their own children. The mortar remains the instrument of dignity won through hardship. A symbol of autonomy in the world of unequal modernization, marking the continuity of a world shaped by manual labor. The mortar and the pestle, a feminine know-how passed down from generation to generation for the community economy. In Mauritania, every morning, two women stand facing each other around the wooden mortar, exchanging the pestles in a synchronized way. They pound the millet, they pound the sorghum, they pound the corn, the fruits of their own field and season work. After grinding, the grain becomes powder. They separate the flour from the hay, used to feed the livestock. Nothing is wasted. The mortar and the pestle nourishes both the people and the animals. The rest of the flour is used to prepare what is known as couscous, porridge, a traditional dish to feed the household. This is not just done by the Aratin women in Mauritania, but the Wahaya in Niger, the Pearl in Cameroon, the Komos in the Gambia, the Bela and the Jongo in Mali and Senegal. The mortar and the pestle, an artisan guardians of a living heritage. The making of the wooden mortar itself, an ancestral skill often practiced by the artisans from the inferior caste, the carpenters, the wood workers, the sculptors, and the blacksmiths. The mortar, a mirror of persistent inequality. The continual use of the mortar in these communities reflect a profound energy and social divide, where elected males symbolize progress, their absence reveal abandonment, women continue to pound by hand because modernity is denied to them. Impassable roads, structural poverty, and a lack of basic equipment. The mortar and the pestle, a memory of justice and re-evaluation of the knowledge of communities discriminated on work and descent. Rehabilitating the mortar and the pestle is a way of doing justice to the communities that make use of them. The descent communities marginalized by caste system inherit from history have nonetheless been the guardians of daily life, the lifeblood of society, their domestic artisanal, the agricultural work has maintained social cohesion and cultural continuity in the context of structural inequalities. Apart from the example of the mortar and the pestle, these women from the decent communities have diverse sustainable practices that not only ensure the survival of this community, but also foster communal solidarity and economic empowerment. These practices serve as a model for other communities, striving for self-resilience and reliances. The formation of cooperative group. One of the most impactful strategies employed by the women of Emwedo in Nigeria is the formation of cooperative group. They make regular financial contributions, which are pooled together and distributed to the members either quarterly or biannually. This system has provided them a safety net to address pressing financial needs, such as feeding, medical expenses, and transportation. This initiative also builds social capital through the strengthening of trust and unity amongst the women, fostering a sense of shared responsibility and mutual support. The community-based income generating revenue. In Cameroon, the paid women organize themselves into groups to collect firewood from the nearby forest. This initiative, characterized by sustainable practices, since only dry season is used to be harvested. The proceeds from the sales of the firewood are equally distributed amongst the women, enabling the families to meet their basic needs. In Mali, the Bela women engage in palm fruit harvesting. Existing palm trees in the forest serve as critical resources for the Bela. They work together to harvest the palm fruit, reducing labor costs and maximizing efficiency. It is further processed into palm oil, which is sold to generate income for the household expenses and reinvestment into the community economy. In Senegal, the women from the decent communities pool their labor and resources to cultivate cassava on communal lands. This cassava is harvested and used to process gari, a staple food product which is sold in local markets. These earnings are distributed amongst the women, ensuring economic subsistence. There is a great impact when it comes to resilience and adaptability. These women leverage local resources by maximizing the use of readily available natural resources to create income-generating opportunities without reliance on external support. The collective activities of these women from the decent communities contribute to poverty alleviation as it creates reliable resources of income, reducing the financial burden on families and mitigating the effects of poverty. The strong leadership is being amplified, and this plays a vital role in mobilizing and organizing this initiative. The effectiveness in the leadership of the Women Association fosters unity and ensures the smooth operation of the collective activities.
Can wrap up, Queen?
The collective activities in itself strengthen the bonds amongst the women. There is a gender inclusive economic participation of all the women within the community through the execution of this initiative. Despite facing systemic exclusion, these practices ensure that women remain active economic participants within the community, challenging traditional norms that undermine women's role in economic decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Queen. You can also see that if you can, I don't know if you all can see it, but we have the cultural symbol of mortar and pestle as well. So I think we have done with all the speakers. Just to say that when we organize, when women from the communities discriminated on work and dissent organize, we bring with us songs of resistance, poetry, cultural symbols, because for us it is so important that we continue to take everything that people want to invisibilize, we would like to visibilize, and that is the way we organize and move forward. We have now about maybe around 10 to 12 minutes where we will open it out to the floor, and if anybody has questions, and then we can wrap up with a surprise for all of you. So any questions? Yes, Albert. Mike?
Hello. Yeah. Is it on? Yeah. So I'm Albert Mehmeti from Roma Litico, representing Roma from
You have to hold it a little closer, Albert.
So representing
Yeah.
Roma from North Macedonia, and here on behalf of GFOD, Community of Work Discriminated Based on Work and Decent. I have a question that is related to all the panelists. So I have two questions actually. The first question is how we are moving forward from expressing solidarity between us as a group, but into strategic alliance that's influencing public policy, have political representation. And my second question is that I don't know very much maybe about the other communities, but how do you ensure that women are also represented in the political sphere? Do we have role models? Are they politically active, especially taking consideration that in the societies where we live, especially for Roma, are mainly dominated by men? Are there spaces for women to participate in politics? Do we have such role examples that we can relate and that we can bring them in such forum? Thank you.
Thanks, Albert. I'll take a few questions and then I can ask you all to respond. Any other questions? Yes, please go ahead. Introduce yourself as well.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Michael Chinemike. I'm from Nigeria. I was actually at the exhibition hall where they directed me that something is happening here. And I'm from Flow with Pride Impact Hub. We basically support young girls with their menstrual health in Nigeria. So what I wanted to talk about is there really any plan to help and kind of create awareness with the younger generation, younger girls, about this whole thing, just like he asked about political inclusiveness and everything. I just felt like if there are plans to ensure that these things start from when they are young, you know, it helps so that it won't be when you get older, you know, you start complaining that, you know, one thing we've discovered from our research and some of the works we are doing in menstrual health is that it seems like it is, as a woman, you're already disadvantaged. There are a lot of things that, you know, when we try to get them to be involved with it, they just feel like this is not a woman thing. And it's very wrong. So what are the plans? Is there any plans? So that's basically my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes, please. Here. Simona. Okay, please go ahead and then we'll come to
Hello. Good morning. I am Itwesika. I am representing Centers for Livelihood and Support to Sustainable Development. I'm from Cameroon. I believe my question goes thus. Before that, I will make a simple analogy. We are living in a world where that is basically dominated by the masculine gender from every culture, every clan, and every nation. So what are some actionable steps as organizations, as individuals, as persons working with the socially disadvantaged, particularly focusing with women and the empowerment of the girl child? What are some actionable steps that we as a body need to take and implement in our communities to go beyond just talk and action?
Thank you. I'll take here, Simona here, and then we go to her and Paul and Aloy, and then we'll stop.
My name is Asrar Abbasi. I belong to Kashmir Development Foundation. I want a question to our Indian participant, and I want to ask in Urdu for all people. आपसे मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि आपने जो स्टोरी अपनी यहाँ पे बताई है उसमें सेम हमारा जो पूरा कंटेंट है उसमें सेम सिचुएशन हमारे लोगों के साथ भी ऐसे ही है। जिस तरह आपने अपनी फैमिली के बारे में बताया, और नेबर वहाँ पे उनको हम वहाँ पे कॉल करते हैं मोची, और वो उनका आर्ट है, ऐसे ही और फैमिलीज़ हैं। अब ये इसके लिए समझने की ज़रूरत है कि ये कैसे एक आर्ट को एक कम्युनिटी बना दिया गया और उसको लो कास्ट में ले लिया गया, और इसको इसमें से कैसे निकाला जाए, हमारी पॉलिसी क्या होनी चाहिए, हम लोग मिलके क्या कर सकते हैं उन लोगों के लिए। जैसे वो छोटी छोटी फैमिलीज़ को उनका नाम रख दिया गया उनके आर्ट पे, जैसे कटिंग वालों को नाई कहते हैं, इनको शूज़ मेकर को वो इस तरह जुला हैं, अवान हैं, उन लोगों के अपने अपने आर्ट हैं। लेकिन वो वक्त गुजरने के साथ साथ हमारे पूरे कॉन्टिनेंट में वो कम नहीं हुआ बल्कि बढ़ता गया। उसको कम करने के लिए उन लोगों को एक तो ये पॉलिसी की कि उन्होंने माइग्रेट करके वहाँ से अपने बच्चों को एजुकेशन दी, तो आगे तो चले गए, लेकिन जिनको छोड़ के आए उनका हाल और भी बुरा हुआ। ऐसे ही हमने लॉन्ग टर्म पॉलिसी बनानी चाहिए। पार्टिसिपेंट इसके बारे में राय दें ताकि हम लोग सारे मिल के आपस में शेयरिंग करके तो इस चीज़ को ख़त्म कर सकें। थैंक यू।
Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Kahramana Kakar and I'm from Afghanistan. Thank you so much for sharing your stories of power, resilience, resistance, and making change in a really difficult context, all of you. You might be aware about Afghanistan and how women and girls are suffering under the current regime of the Taliban. They have been stripped away from all of their rights, including their rights to education. So I just wanted to, it's not a question, but it's a reflection for all of us. When we think about change, when we think about women and girls and marginalization of women and girls, please remember that there are communities within countries, but there is a whole state and a whole system that is working to exclude women in all ways, from all forms of social and political inclusion. So I think in this we need to enhance collaboration across the region, across the globe, because change at the grassroots level means change within the systems, and connecting communities where they are suffering from across the globe is one way that we can forge collaboration and cooperation, and speaking for each other and empowering each other and telling the stories that we come across is real power that the civil society and women who are making change every day in the lives of people. Yeah, I just wanted to share and reflect a bit from my experience. Thank you.
Paul and Aloy. Dinesh, I don't know if we can take about 5 more minutes. Yeah? Paul and Aloy, that's the last question. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Paul Divakar from the Inclusivity Project. Like to really congratulate you for the voices. One question specifically to Ms. Queen Biseng. There is a declaration of, I think, the rights of the African descent. Declaration, and also it was a decade, or UN decade for African descent. It's just about to get over. My question is, has the African descent mentioned communities like what you have described, of communities discriminated on work and descent within Africa and outside Africa? And if not, what are the measures you suggest? If so, how are you making use of that in order to strengthen specifically women and children within the African context of this UN decade of African descent? Thank you.
Father, and please make it short, Father, because we need to, I think, give the room to others.
Yeah, I'll try to be short. We started this session with art. So my reflection and my question is, art is born of power, the power of freedom of oneself, the power of creativity to shape, the power of dream to envision newness, the power of liberation from oppression, the freedom of choice and deliberation. In which case, how can CDWD women's art be used as a collective expression of power for assertion and change? I want this because this is an area where we have not explored much. Collectively, how we can use it for liberation and change and assertion. I'll be happy if Pranjali can respond later. And Queen also.
Thank you.
And of course, what's the name? New
Neris.
Yeah,
Thank
please.
you, Father. Yeah, so we have 3 minutes and before they will shoot me down. So I'm going to be a little bit strict here, sorry. And I would request Neris to go first in that order. Please give your closing remarks, but there were some questions asked on youth. How do we ensure that younger girls are trained? There was some question on what are the strategies that we would go for cross-movement collaboration. So if you can quickly respond, 1 minute you have, and the same goes to all the other participants, yes.
En la comunidad palenquera hay una manifestación cultural que se llama Coagro. Es una organización social. Y todos, niños, niñas, adultos y jóvenes, pertenecemos a un coagro. Este coagro en años anteriores nos enseñaba a defendernos de manera personal frente a los ataques. Pero se ha transformado y también sirve para que los niños y los jóvenes aprendan a ser líderes y crean que se pueden organizar y pueden solucionar sus conflictos de manera interna. Esta es una estrategia que se utiliza a nivel de Palenque y de los palenques diaspóricos. Y me parece muy bueno porque nosotros lo aplicamos a nivel de la organización que tenemos. Y puede ser un ejemplo para el mundo, el Coagro como organización social, porque permite que los niños y los jóvenes empiecen a preocuparse y a tomar decisión por las problemáticas de su comunidad. Es un ejemplo que ayuda a que empecemos a fortalecernos frente al proceso organizativo. Sin embargo, también estos procesos requieren recursos, tener un presupuesto para que se fortalezca. Y creo que es importante contar con recursos que permitan que los niños y los jóvenes puedan participar en condiciones que permitan tener garantías para desarrollar sus proyectos. Gracias.
Thank you. Gabriela, half a minute.
I would say that investment is the most important. We have to go at all levels. I think that was said already, from women and girls on the local grassroots level. Very often, these small initiatives that we kind of plant the seed on the local level are also growing into the bigger political engagement. And there was a question on the political engagement as well. We have some Roma women which were actually very successful on the political level. And I would say that from my experience, those women who made it up, which was never easy to kind of get elected, but they also had very often a little bit more chances on the mainstream political parties than men, because they are not thinking about themselves only, that are not against all the men, of course, but somehow this kind of community approach, this kind of caring values that are being brought by women, it's coming through. So we have very important women like Soraya Post. She was in the European Parliament, and she really did change. She really was true to the word of participation, inclusion, and empowerment, and she brought this spirit also for us, people from civil society and other women, on the very kind of high-level EU political agenda. And I think that we need more of these women, but we also need to invest on all levels.
So I don't know, Queen and Pranjali, if in 10 seconds you can say, and then we close.
Yes, 10 seconds. The plans and the actionable steps for my brothers from Nigeria and Cameroon it starts at home, making the kids know that there is no difference between the girl and the boy, and also creating awareness within the community and advocating at the national level to make sure that this is included in the national plan, and also to poll the UN Decade of African Descent does not include the community as in a specific way, though it mentions about discrimination and marginalization, but this is a call to action to continue the advocacy for this to be included. Thank you.
In 10 seconds to address what Sir and Father Aloysius asked here. In one phrase, I would say invest in youth initiatives. I recently went to my village and I was talking to my young cousins, like these who have so much community knowledge with them, so much of talent and art, and we were trying to come up with plans, and we will be taking it forward also. But one thing that was very sure to me is that our young people, even in villages, like amazing ideas, amazing potential, and what we need to do is invest in them. Government needs to invest in them. We need to see how we can bring their potential into the mainstream. So I think in 10 seconds, that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A big round of applause. And when we started, we said that you cannot win without us. So you cannot run without us. You cannot fly without us. Let's remember that. Thank you so much. Jai Bhim.